We spend so much of our lives trying to dodge suffering, right? But what if the real source isn't actually what happens to us, but what happens inside us? What if all that pain we feel comes from a simple little mistake our mind is making over and over again? Well, in this explainer, we're going to unpack that exact idea.
This is the core question, isn't it? How does some neutral, objective fact, an event, suddenly turn into a deeply personal, painful incident? Just think about it for a second. A random comment is made, an email pops into your inbox, and boom, your whole day is just ruined. Understanding that little transformation is the key to everything we're about to explore.
Okay, so the answer starts with a pretty radical idea. Suffering isn't something that just happens to you, it's actually an active process. It's something our own minds create.
And here's how it works. The world just gives us facts, right? A deadline is missed, the weather changes, someone says a few words. But our minds, they are not neutral observers. They immediately grab that raw data and start weaving it into a story. And it's a story that's always, always about me. And that's the exact moment a simple fact becomes a source of pain or pleasure.
So what's driving this constant need to tell stories about ourselves? Well, the source material here points to one very specific thing: ignorance. But, and this is a big but, this is probably not the kind of ignorance you're thinking of. Yeah, see, the crucial point here is that this isn't about a lack of information. It's not about what you know, it's about what your mind does. It's this active, ongoing misperception, a constant mistake where we wrap our entire identity around things that are, by their very nature, temporary. Our job, our successes, our failures. We truly believe I am these things, which are all guaranteed to change. And you can see how we build our sense of self on these incredibly shaky foundations. I mean, if I am a success, my whole identity is fragile. It's just one failure away from completely shattering. If I am my possessions, well, my peace of mind depends on stuff that can be lost in a heartbeat. This attachment, this constant creation of I and my, that's the real engine of our anxiety. Okay, so let's see how this actually plays out in real time. How does this ignorance turn a simple, everyday event into a major, life-altering incident?
Here's the difference, plain and simple. An event is just neutral reality. A computer freezes. An incident is the dramatic story that follows. My computer froze, my presentation is ruined, and now I'm going to look like a complete fool. The event is just seeing a new person at work. The incident? That's when you decide they're my soulmate or my new rival. That little act of personalization, that's the switch that flips on the suffering.
There's a classic metaphor that makes this crystal clear. Picture this. You're walking at dusk and you see a coiled shape on the ground. That's the reality. It's just a rope. But your mind, in that dim light of misperception, instantly projects the idea of a snake. And what happens? Your heart pounds, you break out in a cold sweat, you're genuinely suffering. But here's the thing. Your suffering is based entirely on an illusion. The snake was never there to begin with. Which brings us to this powerful takeaway. The fear didn't come from the rope, did it? It came from the belief in the snake. It makes you wonder, how many of our own problems are just like that snake? How many of the things we worry about have absolutely no substance outside of the stories we're telling ourselves? So if ignorance is the problem, what's the solution? We need a way to turn on the lights and see the rope for what it really is. And that tool is called discernment. Discernment is basically the ability to step back and just watch your own mind at work. Instead of getting swept away by an emotion, you create a little bit of space. You learn to witness a thought as it pops up without having to become that thought. You're no longer the cloud, you're the sky watching the cloud pass by. And here's the practical difference, which is huge. The default entangled mind says, I am angry. The identity and the emotion are totally fused. But the discerning mind, it just observes, I notice a feeling of anger is arising. That tiny shift in language creates a massive shift in your perspective. You are no longer the anger, you are the awareness that's noticing the anger. So where does all this practice lead? The goal isn't to become some kind of robot who never feels anger or fear. No, the real goal is to uncover something that has been there all along, just hidden underneath all that noise. And this is such a hopeful idea. The source material suggests that underneath all the mental chatter, our true nature is already peaceful, already whole and complete. Our passing moods and emotions, they can't actually damage or diminish this core self, any more than clouds can damage the sun. This final metaphor just ties it all together so beautifully. Your true nature is the sun. It's always present, always whole. Those emotions like fear and anxiety, they're just clouds passing in front of it. Sure, they can obscure the light for a little while, but they can never, ever damage the sun itself. And discernment, that's the wind that gently blows the clouds away, revealing the peace that was there the whole time. So, we'll leave you with this to think about. What would change for you right now, today, if you started to see your thoughts not as the whole sky, but just as passing clouds? What if you realized that you are the sky itself, vast, open, and fundamentally peaceful?